I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags, and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that is an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
Good morning, everyone. It's February 12th, 2020. I'm Eric. Never let an opportunity of crisis go to waste. You remember that? And our beloved rulers, they're not going to let this current crisis go to waste. And by the way, don't you find it rather strange that suddenly Africa has a unknown virus, according to them anyway, and now Germany has an incredibly infectious bird flu going around? I find it pretty strange that all these things are taking place at one time. So let's check out what's been going on here. I've been off for a couple of days because my wife, my daughter, and my son all got some stomach bug. Didn't get me, though. So China is literally dragging people out of their homes and sending them to mass quarantine camps. This one is from Michael Schneider, End of the American Dream. How would you like to be dragged out of your home and shipped off to a camp? This is what's going on to countless people in China. Anyone that is sick, or anyone that has been in contact with anyone that is sick, is being rounded up and sent to a mass quarantine camp. Some of these people did not go peacefully. Some of them are being dragged from their home, kicking and screaming. Have you seen those videos? You hear that shit? Just 1 minute. Yeah, I had to pause for a minute and let the train go by. Just way the fuck out and gone too. I don't understand why we hear it so well, but it is what it is. Again, in some cases, people are literally being dragged out of their homes, kicking and screaming. If this virus was only about as dangerous as the common flu, China would not be resorting to such draconian measures. I don't think China would either, because they already get a pretty bad rap for their human rights violations there in China, and I don't think they want any more bad publicity than is necessary, but that's just my opinion. Of course, they can always call in one of those PR firms and help manage public perception. And that in itself is pretty draconian. Now, once somebody gets sent to a camp where they are surrounded by hordes of others that are already infected, it is inevitable that person will become infected too. So basically, they're sending healthy people off to camps to get the virus themselves and die. And by the way, there are many, many, many children there in China who have gone missing since this has happened. So, I wonder what's up with that. So in a lot of cases, getting shipped off to one of these mass quarantine camps will essentially be a death sentence, and it is. At first, Chinese authorities were literally locking sick people into their own homes, but apparently they did not feel that was being effective enough. Now, I saw the news yesterday, and Singapore, I believe it was, is either that or South Korea. They found that this virus spread through pipes or air ducting, because a woman on the first floor of an apartment building got sick, and then a person who lived on, I think it was either 9th or 10th floor, ended up contracting it. So they think it's moving through piping or air ducting. So there's that. At first, Chinese authorities were literally locking people up in their homes. I already said that. So now the communist government has ordered local officials in Wuhan to round up all suspected coronavirus patients. And I'm not going to call it their stupid new name. We're just going to keep calling it what we've been calling it. China's central government has ordered Wuhan to round up all suspected coronavirus patients, as well as those in close contact, in mass quarantine camps. Needless to say, most people are not going to come forward and willingly volunteer to go to the camps. No, it means your death. And you know what? I'm willing to bet that even if you have some kind of immunity to it over there, even if you make it through the whole process, probably not going to let you live simply because of what you've seen. So there's that. So local officials are conducting door-to-door home searches, which is coming here to the United States, and it will be the premise that they need to come to your door and do a wellness check, and then go ahead and barge in and start searching for your weapons. I can see it all now. So, Chinese authorities have done a really poor job at managing this, and this is a good one over here. Zero Hedge. The other one was too. How Xi Jinping's controlcracy lost control. Although the global coronavirus epidemic has only recently made international headlines, some in China have known about it since the beginning of December. Okay? Which makes what I said many videos back probably very, very accurate. Thanks to Chinese President Xi Jinping's high-tech dictatorship, that information was not made public, and the virus was allowed to take off. And probably not by accident. In his 2016 book, The Perfect Dictatorship, China in the 21st Century, Norwegian political scientist Dean Ringen describes contemporary China as a controlcracy, arguing that its system of government has been transformed into a new regime radically harder and more ideological than what came before. Well, we haven't seen this government kill millions of their own people yet. And I'm going out on a limb here to say that's exactly what's going on in China. Never let a crisis go to waste. So what is China doing? They're using the crisis to kill their citizens. And the same thing will happen here. It will. When they start knocking on the doors, people are going to die. And it's not just us that are going to die. So over the past 8 years, the central leadership of the Communist Party of China has taken steps to bolster President Xi Jinping's personal authority, which isn't legitimate authority. It was taken, as well as expanding the CPC's own powers at the expense of ministries and local and provincial governments. The central authorities have also waged a sustained crackdown on dissidents, which has been felt across all domains of Chinese social and political life. And I've said it before, China is the model for the one world order. Under the controlcracy, websites have been shut down, lawyers, activists, and writers have been arrested, and a general chill has descended upon online expression and media reporting. The first corona case appeared in Wuhan, the central, or capital rather, of Hubei province on December 1st, 2019, as I previously reported. So December 1st, and we didn't hear about anything until about January 20th. It's, a better part of 2 months. And during that time, people were traveling. People from China were traveling all over the place. So what do you suppose is actually going on? I think it doesn't take much of an imagination to come up with that, the idea that it's far and wide. Wuhan police punished 8 health workers for attempting to sound the alarm on social media. They were accused of spreading rumors and disrupting social order. Meanwhile, the Hubei regional government continued to conceal the real number of virus cases until after local officials had met with the central government in mid-January. In the event, overbearing censorship and bureaucracies obfuscation had squandered any opportunity to get the virus under control. And they did. Now, during that time, 5 million of these people left Wuhan. 5 million. That's just under half the population. They were going all over the place. So, again, what do you suppose happens when you got a bunch of infected people flying on planes, jumping on cruise ships, riding Uber rides, so on and so forth? What do you suppose is going to happen when they do this? By January 23rd, when the government finally announced a quarantine on Wuhan residents, around 5 million people had already left the city, triggering the epidemic that is now spreading across China and the rest of the world. When the true scale of the epidemic finally became Chinese public opinion reflected a predictable mix of anger, anxiety, and despair. Isn't that great? Those 5 million people, again, flying all over the place, making contact in airports, really busy, packed airports. Then on February 3rd, after Xi had chaired the Standing Committee's second meeting on the epidemic, the CPC's propaganda apparatus was ordered to guide public opinion and strengthen information control. So, it's their fault that it's gone this far, and they're using cutting-edge AI and big data technologies to monitor every Chinese citizen online. And of course, our own NSA is already doing this to us, which is how they come up with, what was it, the blacklist now? On February 7th, Li Wenlang, probably pretty close. One of the physician whistleblowers who tried to sound the alarm about this outbreak died of this virus, which unleashed a firestorm on local, or social media rather. Millions have taken to social media to express their grief and to demand an apology. Little good that fucking does. An apology from the Chinese government and freedom of expression. They'd rather kill all of you than do that. For the first time since coming to power, Xi's high-tech censorship machine is meeting with intense resistance from millions of Chinese internet users. Okay, as of February 9th, it had killed more than 900 people. I'm pretty sure the number's up to around 1,130, something like that. Let's move on to the next one. Again, never let a good crisis go to waste. This one's from Michael Schneider. Why is the government turning 11 military bases inside the U.S. into quarantine camps? Again, if it's just like the seasonal flu, as we've heard them claim, or the first SARS outbreak, then why are they doing all this? If this coronavirus outbreak is not a serious threat, then why is the U.S. government preparing to quarantine victims all over America? As you will see below, 11 U.S. military bases located close to major airports are being converted into quarantine centers. If this virus starts spreading like wildfire here in the U.S., it is possible that something similar could start happening here. And they're referring to what's going on or being done to the Chinese citizens. The vast majority of the confirmed cases are still in China. But over the last couple of weeks, the number of cases in the rest of the world has escalated dramatically. Back on January 20th, there were only 4 confirmed cases outside of China, and now there are 464, and that number has grown since this article was put out. At this point, there are victims in at least 28 different countries, and that number is almost certain to keep growing, including here. Let's see. Oh. The reason why the virus has already spread to so many nations is because it is highly contagious. Scientists have discovered that it can be transmitted from person to person very easily. It has an incubation period of up to 24 days. Again, think of all of December, most of January, these people, infected people, traveling around the globe. Do you think that it's possible to contain this? And again, there are other viruses spreading in Brazil, Germany, and Africa. And I find it kind of odd that we haven't heard shit out of India, although there was a politician there in India who said drinking cow piss would cure the coronavirus. Can you imagine? Cow piss. If this coronavirus starts spreading very rapidly in the Western world, it is going to create a tremendous amount of panic. Many are still trying to compare this virus to the common flu, but that is a huge mistake. China would never lock down major cities for weeks on end for the flu. And no, they wouldn't bring their economy to a screeching halt either. Obviously, something really big is happening, and the U.S. government is preparing for a worst-case scenario. According to the Miami Herald, 11 military bases inside the United States are currently in the process of being transformed into quarantine centers. And here are the bases down here. Pearl Harbor, Great Lakes Training Center, Navy Base, Illinois, Naval Air Base, Joint Reserve Base, Texas, California, Georgia, New York, Washington, D.C., New Jersey, and Fort Custer Training Center. He goes on to say that hopefully not all of these facilities will be needed, but things are certainly looking more grim with each passing day. There are at least 24 Americans among the 135 infected with this virus aboard the Diamond Princess, and that number has gone up a good bit since then. So let's move on to the next one. This one is also at Zero Hedge, if my piece of shit computer cooperates. Okay, let me see the title. The death rate is up to 5%. The harrowing admission of a Wuhan doctor. A frontline coronavirus doctor tells of life and death in the ICU. There's really no way to calculate that rate yet, but I guess you could take the total number of confirmed cases and then crunch the numbers that way. This is translated by some shit I can't pronounce. Anyway, in the coronavirus epidemic, doctors on the front line take on the greatest risks and best understand the situation. Dr. Zhejiang, Peng Zhejiang, probably pretty close, director of acute medicine at the Wuhan University South Central Hospital, is one of those doctors. In an interview on Tuesday with Caxian, Dr. Peng described his personal experiences in first encountering the disease in early January and quickly grasping its virulent potential and the need for stringent quarantine measures. And of course, by then, it was too late. By then, millions of people had the opportunity to spread this virus all over the world. As the contagion spread and flooded his ICU, the doctor observed that 3 weeks seemed to determine the difference between life and death. Patients with stronger immune systems would start to recover in a couple of weeks, but in the second week, some cases would take a turn for the worse. In the third week, keeping some of these acute patients alive might require extraordinary intervention. For this group, the death rate seems to be 4% to 5%, Dr. Peng said. After working his 12-hour daytime shift, the doctor spends his evenings researching the disease and has summarized his observations in a thesis. Let's see here. Will this video play for me? I don't know. Probably not, because my computer's a piece of shit. Nope. Oh. Are we going to get some? I don't know about you, but I probably will. Come on. This is a stinking 25-second clip. Well, anywho.
How many people have died since the coronavirus outbreak in China began?
This shit's irritating.
Really? And what's the true situation in Wuhan City, the epicenter of the outbreak? This investigative report by NTD aims to find out.
Well, that didn't tell us a whole lot, did it? For all the damn trouble it was. Move on to the next one. Because, United Kingdom, they fly freely to and from the United States, and it seems like a lot of Chinese people go there. My damn computer. Okay, UK hospital admits worker who tested positive for coronavirus treated small number of patients. Yeah. Whatever that means. Let's do the summary here. UK hospital confirms worker found to be infected treated small number of patients. Russia releases 2 Chinese nationalists who recovered from the virus. Chinese Grand Prix likely to be canceled. It was. I could make a racist joke about Chinese driving, but I won't. Couple of onboard Diamond Princess tells CNBC situation is frankly terrifying. AFP publishes report exposing worsening shortages, food and supplies in Wuhan. Cruise ship rejected by 4 countries allowed to dock in Cambodia. Alright, let's check this out here. Listen to this.
People they claim are the most elderly and vulnerable off the ship. They're taking big coach buses and they're putting people on them, but they do it behind plastic wrap and they put fire engines so the press can't see. But that's just proof that this whole thing has failed, and they're using triage to prevent deaths of the most elderly.
Well, I have a little more sinister take on that than she does. Why would they need to go through all those measures for them not to be seen? What's up with that? Can you tell me? Officials at Worthing Hospital in West Sussex confirmed late Tuesday, that a member of their hospital staff was among the 8 confirmed cases of, as they call it, COVID-19. No, it's V201. In the UK, announced earlier this week. So, this thing is beginning to take a hold of the world. Come on, you piece of shit computer. Come on. Alright. Are there really 10,000 diagnosed V201 cases in Wuhan that aren't being counted? Okay, we'll do the summary again, make it quick. UK hospital confirms worker found to be infected and treated small number of patients. Russia releases 2 Chinese nationalists who recover from the virus. The rest of it is the same except for rumors of 10,000 in Wuhan not included in the official count of cases. New York Times follows Wall Street Journal in exploring problems with Chinese testing kits. And there are numerous problems with these kits. So there's that. Meanwhile, we still have local authorities behaving in thuggish, brutal fashion. In a thuggish, brutal fashion. Let me find the latest ones here. Alright. Call a crackhead? ? Georgia cop busted for possession of meth. Yep. Instead of calling 911, state representative, police chief covered up friend's hit and run as victim died in a ditch. Yeah, if you're politically connected like that, you literally get away with murder. Hell, cops in America every day, it seems, get away with murder. But, cop suspended for choking a child, lifting him off the ground by his neck. These are the people that you trust in your public schools to protect your children. But remember what happened in Parkland, right? The little bitches cowered behind cars and hid. But, you know, they're so brave. They're heroes, right? Multiple departments caught not only ignoring rape kits, but destroying them with no investigation. Hey, if you want to be a rapist, seems like you got free reign, doesn't it? And lastly here, investigation reveals state arresting, jailing citizens over unpaid medical bills. The fact is, the term medical martial law is being tossed around. Fact is, the United Nations is forming a committee to work with the task force that Donald Trump ordered formed. They're building quarantine camps or isolating military bases as quarantine camps here in the United States. We have multiple states moving to confiscate guns from their slaves. We have multiple viruses spreading. And God only knows what's going on actually here in America. Will we ever find out, or will we find out when it's too late? If you haven't got a weapon, at least one, and a few boxes of ammo, if you haven't gotten a bunch of food, ways to purify your water, you know the list. If you don't have these things, I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't get them, you're going to be fucked. I went grocery shopping the other day, and already prices are climbing. And before you know it, food may be unattainable for most of the people. Keep in mind that we've had multiple floods in the last few years. We've had droughts. We've had really bad crop failures. Keep in mind that China has culled millions and millions of their pigs. I think the last number was 2/3. Keep in mind that they're doing the same with their chickens. We don't only get our chickens from the United States. A lot of that stuff comes from China. Our prescriptions are made in China. Most of them. I think it was 80%. So if this keeps going, there's not going to be prescriptions to be had. It looks to me like 2020 may be the year that shit, the bottom falls out. And I tell you again, if it weren't for mega corporations, these empire governments, these super rich, most of our problems would not exist. And I think all of you know what the solution is. Kill the state, live free.